What is the most disrespectful thing that someone has done in your home? My mom made a huge dinner for my aunt and cousins. They showed up 2 hours late, told my mom, "Oh sorry, the boys can't eat that much right now," and just went in our fridge and made them sandwiches instead. It was after an awful spinal surgery I went through when I was 12. They were cousins and my parents caught them trying to steal my painkillers. Constantly unplugging electronics. First it was the thermostat. She didn't like the sound the water heater made, then the Wi-Fi. The CIA was snooping on her, and finally my fridge. She was saving the environment. If anyone unplugged my fridge I would gently guide them to the door, nudge them out and never talk to them again. We invited a group of people over for lunch. One of them arrived, put a bunch of food on a plate in a plastic container, and left to bring it to eat with her boyfriend. Edited as my memory comes back. Edit 2. I'm told she came back in and grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, which is when everyone realized what was going on. I was a kid, my mom had a friend and her son over. They were over for a couple hours and, just as they were leaving I noticed all of my video games were gone. I told my mom. She goes grabs his backpack and of course they were all in his bag. His mother immediately came to his defense, saying he's got a lot of games and must have thought they were his. It didn't even make sense and she acted as if nothing had happened. Anyway, terrible mother. Kid had no chance. He is now in jail for life, no parole for shooting and killing a cop during a cocaine bust. Well, that escalated quickly. A friend from college days stayed in our house while he was looking for a job in the area. The only house rule was, do not let the cat out. He's strictly an indoor cat and never goes outdoors. We came home one day and found the slider and screen open. Our beloved cat was gone. When he saw how upset and distraught we were, his response was, "It's only a cat, no big deal." As I've noted here some time ago. We put this guest out right away, and it wasn't until many days later that our cat returned home. Thin, but safe. You broke the circle of trust, Foka. My dog peed on the arm of the couch, the ottoman, and the fridge when I first got him, so that was pretty fucking rude. Not my home, but I was renting a house and the landlady kept turning up unannounced and would let herself in, and would give the key to people doing work on the house without telling us, so we'd, without warning, have strangers let themselves into the house. It was a very stressful way to live. Very stressful, and if you live in the States, also very illegal. Somebody left small children in our house while they went to the grocery store. This happened to me. My downstairs neighbor, who I had only talked to once before, knocked on my door and asked if I could watch his 9-month-old daughter while he ran to the store. This poor girl was soaked in pee and had dried food and snot all over her face, so I couldn't say no. I took her in, cleaned her up, and played with her for 2 hours until he came back. I'm 90% sure this grocery shopping was actually a drug deal. Had a drunk partygoer attempt to do pull-ups from the planks of my old ranch-style ceiling just beneath the heater vent and ended up pulling down a large portion of my ceiling. Refused to pay for it. Dude crapped his pants while sitting on my couch playing a video game and just sat there finishing the match. We were having an old-fashioned LAN party and the entire room cleared out. It's really not a true LAN party until someone shits themselves, GBH. A now ex-girlfriend came into my parents' home for only the second time and said to my mother, "Wow, it's tidy in here for a change, haha." I could see in my mother's eyes the thought process of how to slap her to the next century without making a scene. Thankfully she laughed it off, but that was a big red flag for me and my ex. Your mother fucked up. It was a perfect opportunity to discover time travel and she totally skipped it. Sad day for science. My wife's cousin was staying at our house because he is going through marital problems. One night I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard some change rattling. He walks down the hall with my 5-year-old's piggy bank. He was taking money from my fucking daughter's piggy bank to buy beer and smokes. And that's when you understood where the marital problems came from. Our old roommate pissed in my cat's litter pan because I deserved to clean up his piss. He was mad I wouldn't pay his rent for the 3rd month. Digbag. Kicked my cat, smoked my weed without permission, pissed on the toilet seat, then stole some games when they left, all in one 40-minute visit. A babysitter stole my vibrator and blocked my calls. Like, really? Why would you want someone else's vibrator? Friend must have seen me once put in the code for my spare key lockbox, and I came home to her in my fucking house. Mind you, we're not close. Her excuse, she had to go to the toilet. Safe to say, I reset that shit and didn't invite her over anymore. Weirded me out. I had a best friend apparently steal my spare apartment key and made a copy of it. When I caught him at it, he tried lying but I caught him in that too. Long story short, he was apparently in love with me and was coming into my apartment while I was at work because he missed me so much. He also admitted to stealing a pair of my underwear. It's a very unsettling feeling and really glad you caught your potential perv too. Told me that my food was shit and refused to eat anything. When my husband was in the army we invited a bunch of single soldiers to have Thanksgiving dinner at our house rather than let them languish in the barracks. One of them was a childish private. He began the night by plopping down on the sofa to play with his Game Boy and announced that he hated turkey. Ignored everyone else for the next hour. Alright, no problem. I made a massive dinner and there's plenty of other things to eat. When it came time to serve up the buffet, people lined up and were heaping their plates and this jackass kept loudly complaining that there was nothing good. Selected a few items and joined everyone at the table. Took one bite of one thing, visibly gagged and threw down his fork. Announced that all this food was shit and left the table. Went back to the sofa with his Game Boy. Everyone blew it off and ignored him for a while. We enjoyed our meal and people went out of their way to tell me how lovely the food was and to thank me for inviting them. People began to break up and get drinks. Music was turned up and we settled in for a nice evening. About an hour after dinner the stinker began to bitch that he was hungry, that there wasn't anything to eat, would not shut up, demanded that somebody order pizza. At one point he asked for a peanut butter sandwich. I made him one and he was pissed because it was whole wheat bread and he only liked white. I rented a room to someone I knew since I was 12. He was using and selling H from my house. I found out and told him to GTFO. He was too lazy to use the bathroom and pissed in bottles. I didn't know. Threw the piss all over the room before he left. Carved swastikas in my kid's bunk bed I was letting him use. My grandmother took in a family off the street who lived in their car. She lived alone, and no one was happy about it. But grandma does what grandma wants. She goes upstairs to clean their bathroom, finds their meth lab, calls my uncle to ask if she should call the police, because she doesn't want to put the family into more trouble. Yeah, she called. Back in college my roommates and I hosted a birthday party for a mutual friend at our apartment. Earlier that day we gifted her a pet goldfish because she had been talking about getting a fish. Fast forward to later in the night, our male friend, let's call him Mike, decided he needed to find a way to impress our other friend, who I'll call Dollar. Mike tries every lame joke and pick-up line on Dollar and fails time and time again. Then he sees the goldfish in his tank and scoops him up in his hand. He says, "Check this out, Dollar." He then plops the fish into his mouth and swallows it alive. My roommate and I immediately rush over and start trying to make Mike puke the fish back up. Darla quickly makes for the door and leaves the party. Sadly that fish met its doom in Mike's stomach that night. He never apologized, although he did complain about severe stomach issues for several days afterwards. Not house but apartment in college. Roommate invited a bunch of people over one night. We each had our own bathroom, clearly marked. I go to get something from my room and hear obvious fucking in my bathroom. I knock on the door and say, "Wrong one, get the fuck out." After they came out I saw that they had cleaned themselves up on my nice white towels. Apparently she was on her period. See, this is where I'd bring the towels out into the common room and demand the roommate or the fuckies reimburse me. I'm not above public shaming. She invited a bunch of sleazy guys over. Despite me asking her not to, she let them in while I was in the shower, so I did not realize they were in my house. She then took one into my housemate's bedroom and locked the door. Super disrespectful to my housemate, who had so kindly offered that she could stay in her room as she was going to be at her boyfriend's for the weekend. When I got out of the shower one of the guys was in my bed, and I was like, "Dude, get the fuck out of my bedroom," and he refused and said my friend said he could stay there. I was very not okay with that. I physically had to push him out of my house. The next day when she sobered up, I kicked her out of my house and did not speak to her for 3 years. In what universe could someone think my friend said I could be? Here trumps "this is my bedroom, get out." This is golden, Mr. Skeletal. It appears only once every 20,000 years. Like the video and subscribe to Comment Awards in 20 seconds or you will never have calcium and good bones again.